Thank you very much, Pak Firdaus Dahlan, for giving the opportunity to me to give some opening remarks. Honorable Mr. Chot Trachu, Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Tourism and Sport of Thailand. Honorable Chairman of Working Groups of Tourism, also representative of Working Group on Tourism from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Honorable of National Secretariat for Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Honorable Pak Firdaus Dahlan, Director of CIMT, all distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, very good morning. Sawadee-kap. It is with a great pleasure to welcome all of you to the series of the IMT-GT video conference, Managing the Impact of COVID-19 on IMT-GT Sectoral Cooperation, that has been mentioned by Pak Firdaus, going to have a 6th series video conference in the upcoming event. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all participants for your effort and commitment in ensuring that working groups remain an essential platform for policy discussion, particularly in preparing and anticipating the new normal in our activity. As we face challenges that COVID-19 has placed upon us, as we will use this modality more often moving forward until the situation improves. As you might be aware, all meetings and events scheduled during 2020 most likely will be conducted virtually, as our priority to ensure the health and safety of our members. I would like also to thank the CIMT for coordinating this series of virtual working group meetings. It is critical to ensure the continuation of our work, as well as to maintain the momentum that our cooperation have in several working groups, as well as the UNINET, also with the local government, business people, and so on. Huge responsibility is laid upon working groups and members to attain our objective so that we can report our activities, our also discussion to our ministers and also to our leaders when the ministerial meeting as well as the summit will be held later on. Today, allow me to touch upon 3 key issues. The first one, the magnitude of COVID-19 challenges. Second, the international cooperation, including our sub-regional IMT-GT cooperation to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. Third, I'd like also to touch on the Indonesia policy overcoming the COVID-19. Let me start with the first issue on the magnitude of COVID-19 challenges. Colleagues and friends, I'm sure that you will agree with me that COVID-19 is the greatest health crisis of our time in the world. It is a great equalizer and no country is immune from it. The number of confirmed cases worldwide as of 24th June has exceeded 9.3 million, with 5.04 million were recovered and more than 478,000 deaths. We understand that COVID-19 is not simply a health crisis, but it also has a negative impact to the social and economic aspect. The IMF said it was anticipating the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. In our Southeast Asian region, ADB predicted that the growth dropped to minus 2.7%. No wonder that World Bank believed that this economic fallout could drive additional 11 million people in Asia and the Pacific alone into poverty. Whilst the WTO says that global trade is expected to fall by 13 to 32% as the COVID-19 pandemic disrupt the economic activity. That also affecting the global as well as regional supply chains. Job losses are looming in hardest hit sectors, including informal sector. ILO also noted that the sharp decline in working hours globally due to COVID-19 mean that the 1.6 billion workers in the informal economy all over the world, that's almost half of the global workforce, were in immediate danger of losing their livelihoods. In addition, experts offered different projections on how the crisis would end. Some of the optimistic ones argue that the virus would not dwindle for months with less number of deaths. Others are more pessimistic and predicting the virus will eventually infect half the global population. What is sure, there are still many unknowns about the virus, and this contributes to the difficulties in designing effective policy response until the vaccine is found. And we can also witnessing some countries already facing the second wave of the COVID pandemic in the society is happening. The impact of COVID-19 on international cooperation. Colleague, COVID-19 has impacted international cooperation in many ways. Countries sealed their borders, imposed lockdown and travel restrictions, closed down non-essential works and services, unveiled surveillance program for contact tracing, and some have started limiting export of medical equipment as national security measures due to the fear of shortage of essential supplies. Given this situation, especially due to the restriction of the flow of goods and people, some sectors have severely affected by the pandemic. Among others, tourism sectors that I think today we are going to discuss it, civil aviation, and manufacturing. Hence, COVID-19 is testing our faith in international cooperation and their virtue in solving global challenges. That's why it is very important for us to be united, to be together in keeping up the spirit of cooperation, collaboration, and solidarity. No country could tackle this challenge on its own. Having said that, it is timely for us in IMT-GT to look for possible mutual concrete actions to help our sub-region in responding to the pandemic. Our sub-region is well known for its tourism attraction. Some areas are world-class manufacturing sites, some others are advanced in agro-industries. We have also notable halal industries. Our connectivity, land, sea, and air connectivity are much improved. We are also home for millions of productive SMEs. But now, all of these sectors and stakeholders are negatively affected by the pandemic. The working groups, together with the local governments, private sectors, and universities, should work hand in hand to identify the short-term, mid-term, and long-term measures and action, especially in recovering our economy. What makes different between the 1998 financial crisis that was hit Asia at that time with the current situation is during the 1998 financial crisis, the crisis affected the big companies. But during the COVID in 2020, I think the SMEs as well as the informal sectors really affected by this COVID-19. So that's why becoming more people, becoming more workers affected negatively because of the COVID that we need to support them. Let me also share with you a little bit on Indonesia policy measures in response to the pandemic. Indonesia's government has released a series of economic policies in response to COVID-19 pandemic, comprises on health, social, economic, and financial schemes. In response to the rapid and widespread of the COVID-19 that created a health crisis, we have allocated health budget of 87 trillion for COVID-19 handling, medical staff incentive, debt compensation, supporting the task force, as well as a tax incentive for the health sectors. On our economic recovery program of almost 600 trillion rupiah, also allocated for social protection, business incentive, micro SMEs, corporate financing, and sectoral as well as on the regional schemes. All of this fiscal stimulus, fiscal support for the COVID, the total is about 22% of our budget. It's about 5% of our GDP. The same was made in response to the sharp declining in economic performance, where consumption has been disrupted, investment has been hampered, and trade also declining. The social restrictions have caused the cessation of economic activity and in turn caused layoff of our workers. Hence, we provide social protection budget of more than 200 trillion rupiah for cash transfer to the Vulnerable Community Staple Food Scheme Card, Greater Jakarta Social Assistance, outside Greater Jakarta Social Assistance, as well as pre-employment card and electricity subsidy and village fund cash transfer. Business incentive include individual income tax borne by the government, exemption from tax, reduction of income tax installment, preliminary return of VAT, decrease of corporate income tax rate. As for the SMEs, the government provides interest subsidy, fund placement for restructures, guarantee of worker capital, micro and SMEs income tax borne by the government, and investment financing for cooperative through revolving fund, management institution for cooperative and micro and SMEs. I believe all members countries in IMT-GT also have similar same scheme in response to the pandemic. In sharing the information on the measures as well as in exploring how we could collaborate for the benefit of wider MT-GT community would be important to be discussed today. Last but not least, the COVID pandemic has also shifted all of our offline activity to the digital technology in all of our activities. That's why I think we have to be innovative in utilizing this IT technology in the application in the tourism sector. That I think we are preparing and anticipating to the new normal in tourism sector. With this, I'd like to convey best regard to all of you joining this video conference, and hope you still can maintain your healthy, also stay strong and stay united. Thank you very much to all of you. And Pak Firdaus, now I'd like to return this to Pak Firdaus. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Bapak Rizal Avandi Lukman, for your very substantive remarks. We have taken note already some of the points that you mentioned in your remark, Pak Rizal. Thank you so much for this one. And without further ado, I would like to invite now Deputy Ministers, Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Tourism and Sport of the Kingdom of Thailand, the Honorable Mr. Chod Trachu, to deliver his remark. The floor is yours, Honorable.
Thank you, Director. Dr. Richard Alfandi Lukman, Deputy Minister of for International Economic Cooperation, coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs, Republic of Indonesia, distinguished heads of delegations, Director of CIMT, delegates from IMT-GT, representatives for Joint Business Council, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Selamat pagi. Sawadee krab. I am delighted to meet all of you at this IMT-GT video conference. First of all, I would like to thank CIMT for organizing this video conference under the topic Managing the Impact of COVID-19 on IMT-GT Tourism Cooperation. This special conference is considered a great opportunity for IMT-GT member states to share current situation of tourism sector during the outbreak of COVID-19 and measure to relieve and mitigate tourism sector from the impact of this pandemic. We will also discuss about how the IMT-GT Tourism Working Group can work together to restore tourism in the sub-region. As we are well aware, since the end of last year, many countries have been affected by the coronavirus. According to the World Health Organization, there are 9.3 million confirmed cases globally, and we have mourned for the loss of nearly 500,000 lives. The global pandemic brought the world to a standstill, and tourism has been the worst hit of all major economic sectors due to the travel restriction and fall in demand among travelers. It is hard to believe that there are no traveling in the world, but I believe that in time we will be back stronger than ever. As reported by the UNWTO International Tourism fell by 22% in the first quarter of 2020. This could lead to a decline of 60% to 80% when compared with 2019 figures. There might be loss of 910 million US dollar to 1.2 trillion US dollar in export revenue from tourism, with 100 to 200 million direct tourism jobs at least Asia and Pacific economies, including the IMT-GT countries, and expect to be among the most hard-hit regions. During this crisis, I recognize all IMT-GT countries' successful efforts to control COVID-19 and measures being implemented to protect tourism workers and businesses. I am confident that today is a good chance for us to share our best practices and tourism policy to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 to the tourism sector, as well as to explore the potential IMT-GT tourism partnership to reduce the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism industry. Once again, I sincerely thank CIMT for organizing this special conference and inviting me to deliver the remarks. I strongly believe that with your active participation and contribution today, we will achieve that we aim for. Lastly, I wish you all the best in health and well-being. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mr. Chot Trachu, for your very good remarks and also very substantive one. And we have took note already what the points you mentioned in your remarks, and we believe as well as you believe as well, we can stand stronger than ever if we can work together. So we take note this one. Again, thank you so much, Honorable Chot Trachu. And as before we proceed to the next agenda item, may I request the our Honorable Bapak Rizal Afandi Lukman, Honorable Chot Trachu, and all speakers, and we will have the photo session. Please show your IMT-GT logo like this. So we will take picture, and we will send the picture to you accordingly. So our technical okay, I think that we can say 1, 2, 3. Please show your hand, the IMT-GT logo. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pak Rizal and the Honorable Chot Trachu. And then with your permission, allow me to proceed to the next agenda item. After this, I will hand over the floor to my colleague, Mr. Aaron, Bunchai, who is going to lead the discussion. But before that, there is some small technical arrangement from Putri. Please, you have the floor, Putri. Okay, great.
Hello and welcome to IMT-GT video conference, Managing the Impact of COVID-19 on IMT-GT Tourism Cooperation. So before we begin this video conference, we would like to request all participants to mute the microphone, please. And then for all speakers, we will give a time reminder on your speaking slot. So if you hear the bell ringing twice, you have, can you hear that?
The bell.
The bell, yeah. It means that you have 2 minutes left before your session ends. And if you hear the bells ringing 3 times, can you hear that bell? Okay, it means that it is the end of the session. All right, thank you very much, all the speakers.
All right, thank you so much, Putri, for the technical arrangement. Now I hand over the floor to my colleague, Mr. Arun Bachai. You have the floor, Mr. Arun. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fidan, the law director of CIMT. Already proceeds according to Agenda 1 and 2. And thank you, Putri, informed today program. Richard Chris, head of delegation from IMT-GT, representation from Joint Business Council, United and Air Asia. Good morning and Sawasdee Krap. My name is Ran Bunchai, Deputy Director General of Department of Tourism. I was assigned to be head of Thailand delegate. Therefore, I will take the role as a chairman of the IMT-GT working group on tourism and moderator for today's conference. Please allow me to welcome all of you to IMT-GT video conference on managing the impact of COVID-19 on IMT-GT cooperation. Without further ado, I would like to start with agenda item 3, with a retail view and experience on current situation of tourism sector in our country, impact of COVID tourism industry, and measure implement to mitigate an impact of pandemic. If you have any question, please kindly keep them until agenda item 6. So we will open the floor for discussion during that agenda. First, may I invite delegates from Indonesia to share view on current condition of tourism sector in the country, please. Indonesia, please.
The Chair, Honorable Mr. Rizal Afandi Lukman, Deputy Minister for International Economic Cooperation, Coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Honorable Mr. Chote Trachu, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism and Sports of the Kingdom of Thailand, Mr. Muhammad Daud, Undersecretary for Tourism Policy and International Affairs Division, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Malaysia, Mr. Arun Bachai, Deputy Director General of Development, Ministry of Tourism and Sports of the Kingdom of Thailand, and also my senior, Mr. Firdaus Dahlan, Director of CIMT. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, please allow me to thank the government of Thailand and CIMT for conducting this very important virtual meeting to discuss the impact of COVID-19 to tourism and our efforts to mitigate the impact. On tourism sector, from January to April 2020, we recorded the number of international visitors to Indonesia was 2.77 million. This is a decline of about 45.5% compared to the same period in 2019. We estimate that the achievement of 16 million international visitor arrivals to Indonesia in 2019 will drop to 5 million only in 2020, but still it is depending on the situation in the next few months, and that will also happen with the target of foreign exchange earning in 2020 that is now rectified from $21 billion target to merely $15 billion. On the other side, the hotel occupancy rate in Bali, which is the #1 tourist destination in Indonesia, has dropped to 0 to 8% since March 2020. 0 to 8%. Based on report from our Hotel and Restaurant Association, low occupancy rates may cause unemployment risk because this condition forces management to issue unfavorable policies for the employees, such as unpaid leave, contract suspension, or early retirement. In addition to the unemployment risk in hotel industries, we estimate other potential loss of jobs in tourism in 2020. This is we calculated from January to August. 6 million out of 13 million direct jobs. We calculated this from 13 types of tourism services. And then B, 15 million out of 32.5 million indirect jobs. For instance, souvenir artisan and shops, hotels and restaurant suppliers, money changers, retail services, transport, rental, dancers, musicians, and other MSMEs. Mr. Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the government of Indonesia is working hard to battling the impact of this pandemic. President of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Joko Widodo, on 16 April 2020 has declared 3 mitigation steps to overcome the impact of COVID-19 to tourism sector. First is social security net for tourism manpower. Second, reallocation of Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy budget into labor-intensive program. And third, economic stimuli for entrepreneurs in tourism and creative economy sector to support their business and prevent layoffs. Ministry of Finance response direction #1 with allocation of 110 trillion rupiahs for social safety net program, which already includes pre-employment card program worth 20 trillion rupiahs. All participants will get the opportunity to upskill their competencies through online learnings and will receive cash incentive for 4 months. Out of 5.6 million participants, 189,000 of them is coming from tourism sector. In responding to direction #3, relevant authorities have issued fiscal policies which are expected to build economic resilience during the pandemic. Minister of Finance right now is finalizing regulation on tax incentive or relaxation of individual income tax, Article 21, and acceleration of value-added tax restitution. Previously, such relaxation already covered 19 sectors in manufacturing industries to help their business sustainable in dealing with the severe economic impact of COVID-19. This time, with the new direction from the President, government will expand the tax incentive to additional 11 sectors, including tourism and creative economy. Excellencies, honorables, ladies and gentlemen, the Financial Service Authority, or what we call it in our language, Otoritas Jasa Keuangan or OJK, previously also issued regulations which provide relaxation in terms of loan restructurization for clients who found difficulties in fulfilling their installment to the bank due to COVID-19. This relaxation applies to all sizes of businesses, including SMEs in tourism, transport, hotel, trade, agribusiness, and mining sectors. In the meantime, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy has been starting to implement 3 stages of tourism crisis mitigation, which comply with standard provided by World Tourism Organization or UNWTO with the following stages. First, emergency response. Second, recovery. Third, normalization. The Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy has attended the special meeting on the ASEAN Tourism MATM on coronavirus disease 2019, which was held on 29th April 2020, and the special video conference meeting of ASEAN Tourism Crisis Communication Team on coronavirus disease 2019 on the 4th of June 2020. Indonesia found that both of the special meetings were important to preparing ASEAN destination to be more safety for tourism activities. Also, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy has held several meetings and webinars to enhance the capacity of our tourism and creative economy parties and expand their knowledge about new normal and how to deal with it ideally. In this regard, I'm pleased to share here also that we have done 2 webinar series, 2 regional webinar series that include with cooperation with our colleague in Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. That was attended by more than 300 participants. We've done this 2 times in the last 2 weeks, and we are going to have the last webinar this Thursday. So in tomorrow, from 9 to 10, from 9 to 11 Jakarta time. We will share the e-flyer of the webinar shortly. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, to prepare our tourism sector to be more familiar with the issue of safety and health in Indonesia, in order to face the new normal, our Ministry of Tourism and Creative Industry is also working hard now to prepare the CHS protocol, the Cleanliness, Health and Safety Protocol, which specially designed for tourism destination in Indonesia. We are using the standard as well as guidelines from the UNWTO as well as WTTC. This protocol is created with aiming to regain positive image about Indonesia from global society. We are talking here in the period of building confidence. This protocol will be implemented to all destinations which are ready to reopen their business. Of course, several factors must be considered, such as the availability of washing facility and clean trash can, cleaning public spaces and areas with disinfectant on regular basis, etc., etc. The ministry have chosen Bali as the pilot project for the implementation of CHS protocol. On the last note, Indonesia is looking forward to collaborating with other member states to maximize our communication effort in minimizing the impact of COVID-19 in our sub-region destination. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia, for your comprehensive presentation. Let's move to Malaysia. For issue, please, Malaysia.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Arun Buncay, the Deputy Director General of Department of Tourism, Ministry of Tourism, Sports and Tourism and Sport of the Kingdom of Thailand. Also, thank you to Pak Firdaus and team from CIMT for organizing, initiating this video conference, which is very timely. And then I also would like to say hello to everybody, to my colleague from the Federal Ministry of Tourism in Indonesia, also from the respective IMT-GT region, Indonesia, and also Thailand. I can see also some faces, familiar faces from the universities, and also from the provincial, that normally involved with the tourism corporation within the IMT-GT. First of all, I would like to convey regards from my director, Mr. Muhammad Daud Muhammad Arif, for not being able to join our meeting today. And then he has entrusted me to present on behalf of Malaysia on what we have been doing to manage the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism industry in Malaysia. Okay, as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused severe impact on the tourism industry around the world, and then it has been recognized that tourism is the hardest hit industry and it will be the last to recover. As the people-oriented industry, of course, we are badly impacted, and in the case of Malaysia, for the period of January to June 2020, the estimated loss on the tourism industry in Malaysia is amounting about 10.5 billion, which also causing threat to millions of jobs in the travel and tourism industry in Malaysia. Now I would like to update on the current situation surrounding the COVID-19 in Malaysia, and to control the spread of the pandemic, many countries, including Malaysia, has imposed the movement control order, to ensure that the spread of the pandemic is totally controlled, and then the well-being of the people can also be taken care at the very maximum level as we can. As the situation surrounding the COVID-19 gets better and the infection rate in the country has gone down tremendously, Malaysia has started to impose the Recovery Movement Control Order, or we call RMCO, beginning 10 June 2020 until 31st August 2020. And under this RMCO, most of the economic activities, including the domestic traveling, are allowed, and tourism-related business can resume operation while adhering to the new normal and strict hygiene practices and SOPs. And nevertheless, the country's borders remain closed for international travel. And then with the aim to revive the Malaysian economy from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, the Malaysian Prime Minister, Honorable Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, on the 5th of June 2020 has unveiled the National Economic Regeneration Plan, or we call it PENJANA. And under this plan, the government has allocated about USD 234 million or RM 1 billion for PENJANA tourism financing facilities to finance the transformation activities or initiative by SMEs in the tourism industry. The initiative provides robust economic incentive for the tourism sector to stimulate the public's interest to travel. Among the incentives include the tourism tax exemption from 1st July 2020 to 30 June 2021, extension of service tax exemption for hotels to 31st June 2021, and extension of income tax relief of USD 227 or RM Ringgit Malaysia 1,000 for domestic tourism expenses to 31st December 2021. And then to utilize the tax relief, Malaysians will have to spend on local businesses, which could boost the local tourism. And under the earlier economic stimulus package, the tourism industry players also currently benefiting from various incentives offered by the government, which include one-off financial aid for tourist guides, exemption of license renewal fees, and ease of compound rates for tour operators and tour guides, tax deduction on expenditure incurred on training courses for tourism employees, as well as the discount on electricity consumption to hotel operators, travel and tourism agencies, shopping complexes, convention centers, theme parks, and local airlines offices. Apart from that, we had also set up the Malaysia's Tourism Recovery Plan to restore the tourism industry from the impact of COVID-19. And then the plan consists of several strategies such as to restore the confidence to travel, boosting the domestic tourism, intensifying short-haul market for ASEAN and also IMT-GT, maximizing resources by partnering with the state government, local council, and agencies specialized in the niche areas of tourism, enhancing quality of tourism products and services, ensuring sustainability of culture and arts and industry, leveraging on smart tourism to optimize marketing and promotional efforts via digitalization and big data analytics, as well as upskilling human capital towards the new norm by building capacity and capability of the tourism industry players. So as of now, Mr. Chair, the update from Malaysia on the measures that we have been taking to cushion the economic impact of the COVID-19 to the Malaysia's tourism industry. Now I'll give back the floor to you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Malaysia, for sharing us your tourism situation and measure and recovery plan to mitigate COVID-19. Now, I would like to share the meeting about current COVID-19 situation in Thailand, impact for COVID to tourism industry, and measure to Thai government to mitigate and relent tourism and relieve tourism sector. In this regard, I would like to invite my colleague Mrs. Panasari Sanayasari Iltoksian, Director of Tourism Professional Development Division, to provide you more details about this point. Please, Mrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the permission of Head of Thai Delegation, I would like to briefly update the meeting on the current situation of tourism in Thailand and measures implemented to mitigate impacts from the pandemic. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? เขาได้ยินไหมอ่ะ
ได้ยินครับได้ยินครับ
โอเคค่ะ
Yes, we are listening Thailand.
Can I have a slide, please? Okay, thank you. Okay, since the outbreak of the COVID-19 last year, the total number of infection in Thailand as of 23rd of June 3,156. Among them, 75 hospitalized and 3,023 made full recovery, and we have accumulated death toll of 58. There were 5 new coronavirus cases reported yesterday. According to the extension of temporary ban on all international flights to Thailand until 30th of June, there is no international tourists traveling to Thailand since April. From January to May 2020, Thailand has received 6.69 million international tourists, which decreased around nearly 60% of the same period last year. And tourism receipts also decreased around nearly 60% from January to May. We received 11 billion US dollars compared with the receipt of 27.36 billion US dollars in the same period last year. This slide shows the study. Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay.
Next slide, please.
Thank you. This slide shows the study about impacts of COVID-19 on businesses and employment in Thailand. We can see that the tourism businesses such as hotels, airlines, wellness and spa, as well as tour operators are negatively affected the most by the pandemic. The pandemic also has great impact on labor market in tourism industry. There are around 3.6 million workers in tourism sector, and 2.5 million workers will be affected by COVID-19. The highest risk in this group is those who work in hotels. To mitigate tourism operators from the outbreak of COVID-19, Thailand has various measures to relieve them, which can be divided into two parts. Next slide, please. The first part is about measures that we already apply, which mostly focus on supporting liquidity of tourism businesses. For example, government saving bank offers soft loan for tourism operator under soft loan program for tour operators from COVID-19. This program aims to help small size enterprise from the pandemic. Can I have the next slide, please? We also have small loans for extra cash program to help tourism small SME for increasing their liquidity. In order to help businesses to reduce their costs, the utility authorities announced a 3% reduction in electricity and water bills for all category of electricity and water users from April to June 2020, totally 3 months. Do we have problem with the presentation? Okay. Okay. We also give 70% of company registration deposit back to our companies that register with the Department of Tourism to help solve their financial stagnation. Moreover, the Ministry of Labor announced a number of compensation benefit schemes for employers and employees registered with the Social Security Fund who are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. If an employee is required to undergo a period of quarantine in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and have to leave without pay, then such employee will receive compensation benefit from the Social Security Fund for up to 90 days in an amount equal to 62% of his or her daily salary, subject to an eligible monthly salary cap of $500 US. The second part is about measures that we have been applying to recover tourism sector from COVID-19, which mostly focus on building confidence among tourists and boosting the domestic tourism. For example, the Tourism Authority of Thailand, in collaboration with Ministry of Public Health and travel-related public and private agency, has launched an Amazing Thailand Safety and Health Administration, or CHA, certification during May 2020 to improve the country's tourism industry standards to be in line with the public health, sanitation and safety measures to prevent risks from the COVID-19 and even gain confidence among international and domestic tourists. This process of certification is to prepare Thai tourism entrepreneurs to be ready for the return of tourism after the pandemic is under control. In this regard, the specialists from travel-related association will be engaged in the audit committee, and tourists can also participate in the post-audit through an online channel. The certifications assessment focus on the following 5 key areas. First, tourism establishment and services must strictly follow the COVID control guidelines by the Department of Disease Control, Ministry of Public Health. Second, the safety of attractions and facility with development plans or operation procedures that focus on ensuring tourist safety while maintaining local culture and promoting interaction between local communities and tourists. Third, hygiene and sanitation in tourism establishment and services such as accommodation, souvenir shop, and restaurant. Fourth, convenient cleanliness and safety of linkages between communities and attractions, as well as the safety and health standards of public transportation. And fifth, the confidence in tourism personnel in tourism establishment, including tourist safety and security protocol. And Thailand, by the Tourism Authority of Thailand, has also launched the Tourism Recovery Plan, focusing on 5 Rs, namely reboot, rebuild, refresh, rebound, and rebalance. For reboot, this focus on the stimulating repeating domestic travel, especially in local area to boost the local economy. For rebuild, this is to increase the capacity for long-term competition and develop tourism products and services to have higher added value, as well as to solve existing problems in a supply side and improve personnel skill to make use of digital technology in order to adjust to the new normal. For refresh, this is to create the communication campaigns for domestic and international markets to let tourists think of Thailand as a top-of-mind destination, which can offer the natural beauty and safety, and also gain that confidence to travel in Thailand after COVID crisis. And for rebound, this is to stimulate foreign visitors to return rapidly by aiming the quality markets with a high spending potential and maintain the base of existing tourists with modern marketing. And last, for rebalance, this is to adjust a new balance towards sustainability and promote responsible tourism, which provides a proper income distribution in order to enhance the balance of economic growth, social responsibility, and environmental conservation. We also have many projects to boost domestic tourism, such as Holidays for Heroes campaigns to thank medical staff. They can choose either tour package, airline ticket, or hotel voucher with special discounts. And last week, the Cabinet has just approved the concept of 3 tourism packages to boost domestic tourism and help generate incomes for tourism businesses. The first package is to support local medical staff members who have been dedicated themselves to fight against COVID-19 for their traveling within the country. For the second package, the government will support Thai tourist partial travel expenses for accommodation to help homestay, hotels, and restaurants. Lastly, the third package is for public, which the government will support partial expenses for domestic return flight ticket to help tour operators and domestic airlines. And that's are the current situation and measure that we have been doing so far. Thank you very much for your kind attention. ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you, Director. Sorry, maybe technical problem in the presentation. Let's move to agenda item 4. Mitigation, the impact of COVID-19 on tourism industry. For the agenda item, we have presentation from AirAsia to present on current condition of business, practical policy implement and opportunity in tourism sector post-COVID-19. May I invite representative from AirAsia to make a presentation, please.
Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a pleasure for AirAsia to be part of this discussion between the three countries. And as a truly ASEAN airline, we are honored to be able to share our thoughts on how we have experienced COVID from the private sector side. So if everyone can hear me, I'm just going to pull up my slide to be able to share it. So I think I'll present our experience so far, the last 5-6 months in 2 periods. The first is really at the onset of the crisis, maybe, going back to February, March, to the second period, which is right now. But first, let me highlight this is really some of the bragging rights. We came from very humble beginnings, AirAsia, only 2 planes. Started in Malaysia 18 years ago, and now we've grown to about 300 planes. We are no longer just a Malaysia brand, but we have AirAsia Thai, we have AirAsia Indonesia as well, along with many other countries. So we're very proud of that fact. And because of that, we have been a big part of tourism, investment and trade in the various countries that we operate in. For AirAsia, we bring in about 13 million visitors to ASEAN 5 are brought on our planes because we have the best connectivity in ASEAN. We contribute heavily to the GDP, both directly but also indirectly, because we support a lot of SMEs, a lot of the suppliers on the supply chain. And we're growing as, the second largest cargo operator because, in Malaysia, Indonesia and Thailand, we're big on trade, and we are proud to carry a lot of goods in our belly. But really, I think all of you would probably know my big boss, Tony Fernandez. He always says he's seen everything, but he truly said for COVID, it is something that he could never imagine. And I think these are some of the numbers that some of you, ladies and gentlemen, have presented before, but really, this is the worst economic downturn in the last almost 100 years. And, I'm a previous reformed economist, so these numbers really look worrying, but we're really hopeful in the last few weeks on some of the green shoots that are emerging. So really, this is bringing all of you back to about 3 months ago, February, March, when it first began, COVID, and how we were impacted. So I think in the opening statement, sir, you did mention about flight cancellations. So almost 95% of our fleet, about that 300 planes, have been grounded. And so our load factors before the lockdown by several countries, our load factors were decreasing. We had to cut capacity, and compared to a year ago, we were carrying less than 50% of our usual load. So this is just total impact. And because of that, and since many countries around the region started to lock down and close borders, we had to go into hibernation mode since 28 March. But, even during the hibernation mode, we still operated, so about 5% of our fleet still operated evacuation flights, relief flights, humanitarian flights to bring nationals, whether it's Indonesians, Thai, Malaysians, or other nationals from other countries around the world to bring them back to their home countries. So we still did that. And more importantly, we also continued to supply medical supplies. So whether it's face masks, ventilators, hospital beds, we were still continuing to transport that from China and from other countries to our home countries to support the government authorities. So this is Teleport. Teleport is our cargo brand, and this is where we are supporting the movement of cargo. But really, because the challenges were so huge, we had to take drastic measures because we were also on survival mode. So the first thing was to really cut costs as much as possible to ease our cash flow. So starting with, the board and senior management, we had pay cuts from 15 to 100%. We deferred promotions, etc., and also really reduce all the events and external trainings that were not required by law to a minimum, just to keep surviving. Since we can't fly and we can't bring in revenue, these were some of the drastic measures that we did. So this is in terms of the cost cutting. And only, I think, starting in May and April, we had to also start cutting salaries of the lower level staff, just to make sure that we can still employ them as much as possible, even at a lower pay. And I think this is the same experience in a lot of other airlines around the world. But second and most importantly is where many of you may know or may not know, but AirAsia is no longer just an airline. We're a technology company. So we've been diversifying our revenue streams. Sorry. We have our cargo business that I mentioned. We have a training academy because we're very high tech. We want to also train other government agencies, private sector people to upskill themselves. And then we have our group companies where our shop is our e-commerce platform where you can buy your essentials. So it's like our Lazada. We have our farm because when we saw during the lockdown, a lot of the farmers couldn't transport their vegetables and fish. And so we came in to cut the middleman so that the fishermen and farmers can get more access and higher profits. And we transported it from the farmers all the way to the consumers and businesses. And Santan is, I know a lot of you probably have flown on AirAsia and have experienced the really good food on our flight. So we're quite proud to be an airline that has brought our food from 35,000 feet in the sky to all the way down to ground level, because we just opened our Santan, our ASEAN fast food restaurant in Malaysia late last year, and we want to open up more in Thailand and Indonesia in the next few months. So this is really going deep diving into some of the digital business, air cargo, teleport. We use really big data and blockchain so that cargo booking can be 10 times faster. We as mentioned, we transport really high-end medical goods to the consumers and to businesses. And, in terms of land logistics, this is where we do business and home delivery. Another good thing about where we tried to turn the crisis into opportunities, we saw a lot of our pilots and cabin crew could not fly. So they did not have, although they were paid their base salary, they didn't have their allowances, but we quickly used them to be our drivers. So we have here, for example, Waycat, our pilot, being one of our teleport drivers, our cabin crew, our flight safety engineer, and really we now have about 100 teleport drivers, and 80% of them are from our AirAsia staff, so that we didn't want to lay them off, but we use them in our other business. So from the airline business, they quickly helped in terms of our digital business. And we had more than 1,000 food deliveries, and more importantly, we're helping the micro and social small, medium entrepreneurs to sell their goods on our e-commerce platform, since they no longer can open a shop. Another example is our shop. So this is our e-commerce platform. When the lockdown happened, we quickly onboarded a lot of people onto our platforms. We tried to use really small names that couldn't find marketing, because we're really good at marketing, giving them marketing skills, digital skills, and now they have access to our millions of people on our database so that they can sell. So hopefully when the lockdown ends and borders are open, we can have, Zubaida in Malaysia sell her affordable baby goods beyond Malaysia as well. So we want to give them that marketplace. This is about the Red Beat Academy. So this is just going through, an SME who does not know how to set up an e-commerce platform, really holding their hands and going one by one to upskill them to make sure that they can really reap the benefits of the digital economy. And for Santan, so during the lockdown, it also coincided with Ramadan, the fasting month. So in previous years, people could sell their cakes and food in the market physically. Now they couldn't, so we also used them. We quickly did a quick marketing campaign, these entrepreneurs to get them on board. And more importantly, how we're trying to use technology, and food technology is having a cloud kitchen where, there's a central procurement process. Everything is digitalized, so you can know which is the best place to get your ingredients at the best cost, so that all these small and medium enterprises can have a better cost management process as well. And physically, when the cloud kitchen is open, some of them who have outgrown their small kitchen at home, they can also have a space in our cloud kitchen so that they can use like more high-tech dining and cooking technology. Sorry. And lastly is the Our Farm. So this is just in pictorial form of how visually we are using connecting farmers, flower producers, fishermen to the domestic, whether it's Malaysia or Thailand or Indonesia, and the export market through Santan, our food delivery, and our B2C and B2B platforms. And they're all powered by Teleport, our cargo business. But then that was in the past, right? And that's how we really survived the lockdown. But really in the last month and a few weeks, a few countries, especially here where I'm based in Malaysia, we've gone into the recovery mode, as my colleague in the Ministry of Tourism has mentioned. So we're starting to fly again. We're starting to fly again, but very slowly. So this is actually a picture from our first flight in Malaysia, where you can see this is our CEO of Malaysia. We're posing in front of our flight to Kuching, I think was the first flight. Recovery, and then this is where we are now, because we see how big aviation and tourism is as part of our economy. So just putting in numbers, which all of you ladies and gentlemen would know, but aviation and tourism constitute a substantial part of our economy. And aviation, because we're such a big connector, we play a big part of it. So I think with that knowledge, we understand why people need to start flying soon. So that's why we really applaud a lot of our government efforts in terms of forming these travel bubbles or green lane or fast track. They're known as different names in different countries, where let's start opening up on a bilateral basis with countries, green countries or green zones, where we see like low levels of infections, we have some similarity in health protocols, make sure it's harmonized, and also those with strong economic and social ties, so that people can start moving freely. Because we see, we've gone on our rounds to talk to foreign embassies here and abroad and businessmen, and everybody still wants to travel, because you have a businessman in Thailand who has a factory in Cambodia and who wants to go and visit his factory, because there are certain things that you can't do over Zoom call. So you certainly can't see your machinery and people and fix the issues there in a Zoom call, but you need to meet them physically. So I think the business needs are really big, and you can see that shift in government, especially Malaysia and Thailand, where it went from saving lives to now it's saving livelihoods as well. It's equally important. And I think this is one point where, just to debunk a lot of myths, air travel is really safe. If you look at all the medical experts and research studies out there, the risk of transmission on board is very low compared to other forms of transportation, because really the air circulation, we use HEPA filters in all modern aircraft. This is the filter that you use in a hospital operating theater, where it filters out 99.9% of viruses and bacteria. The second is cabin. It is all to do with how the cabin air circulation is. It is not front to back, but it's really ceiling to a floor, and it gets refreshed every 2 to 3 minutes. Because of this, a lot of medical experts and international bodies, whether it's IATA, ICAO, EASA, have all said that social distancing on board is not necessary and that flying is safe, because even before you board your aircraft in the airport, there's all the health protocols that you have to go through. And in AirAsia, these are some of the health protocols, whether it's pre-flight, in-flight, and post-flight, that we really have to communicate to our passengers to tell them that, really we practice the highest standards of public health right now and even before. And this is where communication is really important. So even during hibernation mode, when we were not flying, we really pulled out a lot of videos, 6 videos in like 1 month about flying safe. So we had our captains and our flight engineers showing how our aircraft is cleaned, how we're using technology, contactless technology, where you don't even have to touch a screen at the airport, so that it's really, all those touch points are minimized. But also, how do we look up after pregnant people and people who are high risk? So this is where communication is really important. But this is where I want to take into some of the presentations that have been presented by the authorities before, where you have all the plans to stimulate, especially now we're starting with domestic tourism. So this is some of the example in AirAsia as of 2 weeks ago, when we were able to fly domestically, right, in Thailand or Malaysia or Indonesia, with trying to promote domestic tourism, showcasing different packages and really pushing domestic tourism to its maximum. This was a big promo in Malaysia, and I think next week, the end of this week, we're doing it in Thailand, where with just $399, less than $100 US, you can fly all you want all over Malaysia till March 2021. So this is where we're helping, the government authority, especially in Malaysia, where they started opening up. They said they want to promote domestic tourism. So this is one of our campaign initiatives, and we're working closely with Tourism Malaysia and MOTAC, of course. And second, we didn't just stop with one promotion. We added even our SNAP, which is our flight plus hotel bundles, because we see, in the tourism industry, we're not the only ones suffering, not just airlines, but really hoteliers, restaurants, parks. So we are partnering with others so that everybody can rebuild themselves together. And really, just that, I think, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to answering any questions you have, and hopefully you see how much, we are coming back stronger than before. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, representative from Asia, to come and share experience today. Thank you. Now, shall we move to agenda item 5, turning COVID-19 crisis into opportunity? For the agenda item 5, we have representative from Uninet and JBC to share their view on how they can turn COVID-19 into opportunity. First, I would like to invite representative from Uninet to share his view from research perspective on the impact COVID-19 to tourism. Please, representative from Uninet.
Okay, can you hear me? Yep. Okay. Hi. My name is Muhammad Hafiz Hanafia. I will be presenting or sharing on the topic of turning COVID-19 crisis into opportunities, evidence from desktop and preliminary industry survey. And just a short introduction. You can call me Hafiz. I'm currently the Associate Professor of University of Technology Mara, and I'm also the President for Tourism Educators Association of Malaysia. And I'm from University of Technology Mara, and we are proud that we are currently ranked as the top 50 faculty in the world in the area of hospitality and leisure management. So, to set the scene, I would like you to just go through with the trends of coronavirus disease. If you look here, the numbers of confirmed cases over time is actually upward trending. And this data is last updated on 20th June 2020. And if you look on the case comparison, yep, I mean, it's good news for Southeast Asia's countries that the numbers of confirmed cases are not as much as the Americas and Europe. But still yet, as you can see from here, the trend is upward, which is quite worrying for, I mean, the policymakers. Yep. And looking back on the trend by region, yeah, we are still upward trending, yeah? And we are quite similar with the rest as compared to the Western Pacific, in which the numbers are getting lower each day. Yeah? So this is actually the data that I would like to share. I mean, the numbers of confirmed cases is more than 8 million, and only 4.6 million were recovered. But if you look on the Malaysian overview, our way of handling COVID-19 is actually quite good. The numbers of confirmed and recovered is actually quite equivalent, and we managed to only have 121 deaths. This is actually a good news for service sectors. As right now, Malaysia has moved towards what we call a recovery movement control order. So a recovery movement control order is where the government is up the economy sector. We can say that nearly 70 to 80% of our economic activities is currently ongoing in Malaysia. Only certain economic activities that does not adhere with the social distancing are still closed down. But if you are here with me in Malaysia, actually it's like normal, and the only thing is that the Malaysians are only allowed to move around the Peninsula Malaysia and also Sabah and Sarawak. We are not allowed to go outbound, and we are not yet going to receive any inbound travelers in the near futures. And when we talk about pandemic and tourism, the only benchmark that we have is SARS in 2003. And SARS itself, yeah, if you look here, the impact of SARS on tourist arrival, I'm using China as our benchmark because most of the ASEAN countries, especially the IMT-GT nations, have been receiving China's tourists a lot for the past few years. And in 2003, during SARS, even though there's SARS, the numbers is actually, I mean, we are still receiving tourists, even though the growth is negative. And the cost at that value is actually 3 trillion. And well, we cannot use SARS as a benchmark because COVID-19 hit worse than SARS. And it adds a different level of uncertainty, and the impact is global. Yep. The reason why majority of the countries are preventing travel, grounding flights, in which the impact will be much higher as compared to SARS 2003. And talking about Malaysia, the outbreak of COVID-19 has hit Malay tourism sector. Between January to February, this is before the movement control order, it's already cost us 3 billion, more than 3 billion. Even the much anticipated VM 2020 campaign had been cancelled. I mean, the Malaysian government had been preparing for a year to promote Malaysia for VM 2020, and unfortunately, we have to cancel the campaign, and money goes to green. And Mata is our travel agents association. They claim that during March 2020 school vacation, this should be our peak season. There's a big drop in their revenues by 150 million ringgit Malaysia, and MAH reported that a total of 170 1,000 hotel room bookings valued at 68 million were cancelled. Malaysia Association of Hotel also foresee that 30% of these 4,888 hotel registered under MOTAC, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, are expected to close down. And the Malaysian Association of Travel and Tour Agency also faced with potential liability around 500 million from customers seeking for liability. Yeah? And I believe that I'm representing the Tourism Educators Association Malaysia. In order to further understand the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, we, the team, execute a survey on exploring how the industry perceive and expect from COVID-19 crisis. And this survey was executed after the first 2 weeks MCO, I mean the lockdown. Yeah. And if you can see here, yep, I'm just going to share with you. This is something that is quite interesting. We asked them, how have your business performed? And majority of them claim that their sales turnover had reduced, their profit had reduced, their staff numbers also will be reduced, and they have changed their investment, meaning that they are reducing their investment. And we also asked them about their future expectation of business performance. And majority of them claim that their sales will also will be reduced, profit will be reduced, and the staff numbers will be changed, decrease, and also they expect they will cut down their investment. However, I mean, this is all expected, but this is actually quite worrying. Yep. We asked them what are their plans to curb the impact of COVID-19 on their business. Somehow, majority of them claim that they will review their business plan, cut down investment, expansion plan will put on hold, they will do retrenchment, they might explore new market, new businesses, and reduce operation costs. But the most shockingly findings is that 190 of them, we can say majority of them, will take no actions. Meaning that the industry, the tourism industry and in Malaysia are actually not prepared with such pandemic effects. Yeah? And they have no idea how would this pandemic affect their business. And eventually they are actually waiting for government policies and also measures to help them in undergoing with this COVID-19 pandemic issues. So it's actually something that we like to share. And in terms of lesson learned, yep, this is based on the desktop research and also from academic point of view. We believe that the free fall of tourism should be considered as a lesson from over-reliance on the mass market. I believe that the ASEAN market, the ASEAN destination have been over-reliance with the Chinese tourists. Therefore, I believe that we should focus on new and niche market. Hygiene, sanitation, access to quality health service, and the trustworthy health and safety information are going to be critical for future travelers. Therefore, future marketing and promotion should place public safety and security as part of their promo market. Yep. And tourist business, I believe that they need to implement touchless check-in, checks-out, door locks, or other non-touching service elements. And also, COVID-19 actually tell us something. This is not the time to prioritize profit. It's a time to focus on establishing trust among the travelers, among the employees, highlighting the benefits of traveling, and keeping the current customers engaged, and also recruiting new ones. We have to see the trend. Yeah, this is all the headlines, the current headlines on COVID-19 and tourism. You can see that now the World Travel and Tourism Council are coming out with a safety stamp, and destination are urged to sign up with the WTTC safety stamp. Thailand actually launched safety certification scheme for tourism establishment. This is actually quite good. Japan and Italy will pay for part of your trip. I mean, they are going to subsidize travelers to visit their destinations. Italy will pay half the price of your flights, hotel bill and free museum tickets to get back tourists after coronavirus. Oh, that's good. I mean, I believe that now everyone are going to plan to visit Italy in the near future. And for IMT-GT, something to worry about is Vietnam races ahead of other Southeast Asian countries in tourism reopening. Well, as you can see that Vietnam had been doing very well in coping with COVID-19 domestically. And Thailand to turn away from mass tourism, target the wealthy. Good job, Thailand. I mean, it's about time for you to turn into a much quality tourist. And in terms of subsidy and economic injection, Thailand plan to inject US dollar 722 million subsidy. Indonesia to spend 744 US dollar, and Malaysia unveils their 1 billion tourism financing scheme. I mean, even though it's 1 billion, but this is totally focusing on the tourism financing scheme. But then look here, Saudi Arabia invests 4 billion into tourism development. So, I mean, others are catching us up. Yeah? And if you look here, travel within Australia is set to resume in stages. They are throwing the idea of travel bubble and Pacific Island flights. And even Indonesia start to promote a travel bubble for the 4 countries in Asia Pacific. And recently, I just read today's news that Malaysia also planning to maybe plan throw the idea of travel bubble to the prime ministers, maybe in the near future. Yeah. So, what are the recommendations from this issue? I mean, traveling is actually still demanded. People would like to travel, but travelers' behavior will change. Yeah, I mean, people might not want to fly again in the near future. Yeah, I think within the 6 months, they might not want to fly for leisure. Even business travelers are trying to avoid traveling to other cities, and they also might avoid visiting big cities, and they might prefer to visit suburb or rural areas for a change. Yeah, and as a tourism player and tourism businesses, we need to adhere to hygiene, sanitation, and safety guidelines. This is the only thing that could instill confidence to the post-COVID travelers. I mean, right now in my university, I'm currently heading a research on the post-COVID travelers' behaviors. Everything that we learn, every theory that we have, even the Maslow hierarchy, the five stages of Maslow hierarchy had changed because of COVID-19. So we have to start from zero. We have to understand that hygiene, sanitation, and safety guideline is one of the most important things to motivate the travelers to travel again. And for Malaysia, we recommend that the ministry to promote Cuti-Cuti Malaysia. Focus on domestic tourism. I believe that Thailand, Indonesia also planning to do so because we have a very large market available here. If you really read the report by WTO and WTTC, you can see that the outbound tourism trend have been booming for the past few years. And these are the money that we lost in terms of currency exchange and spending outbound. These are the market. I mean, they have the motivation to travel. They have the disposable income to spend, and they should start visiting back. I mean, they might have been visiting domestically, but they need new product. They need new destination locally. Well, I also suggest we should opt for travel bubble. Maybe IMT, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand countries could agree to open their borders to each other, but keep the borders to other countries closed. I mean, we focus on the 3 countries only. And well, believe me, both ideas is not too far-fetched or impossible. Or I mean, it's not something that's wrong. I mean, we need to consider these domestic and a travel bubble inbound tourism activities will offer the prospect of keeping the travel business alive, even for our local airlines. hotels, travel agents, and also theme parks, MICE, and other tourism services. So as a conclusion, this will be a very short and sweet conclusions. I strongly believe that the government needs to provide continuous guidance and support to tourism sectors. Including, I can see that we are focusing a lot on the airlines and on the hoteliers, on the travel and tour operators, but we forgot about this tourism event and fairs. The MICE is actually a very big industry for the ASEAN countries. We also need to execute immediate short-range solutions. I believe that each of you are aware with IMT-GT's 2036 vision, and with this COVID-19, the vision is in jeopardy, big jeopardy. And most of you are specialists in tourism, and I believe that you will agree with me that a recurrence of COVID-19 style outbreak is very likely to occur again. Please do consider academician to work closely with the government industries. The academician would love to provide much needed expertise and support. Again, I would like to reiterate that people will travel again, but their travel behavior will definitely change. So tourism business need to learn and relearn fast and prepare to cater the COVID tourism demand and behaviors. I think for that, thank you very much, and I rest my case. Back to the MC.
Thank you very much, Representative Uninet, for your valuable contribution. Now, I would like to invite representative from Joint Business Council, Kun Phumrat Praktangam, to share with the business challenge and opportunity in tourism sector post-COVID-19. Please, Kun Phumrat.
Hi, hear me well, I guess. Can you hear me then?
Yes, okay.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Phumrat Praktangam. I'm the president of Phuket Tourism Associations, and I'm sitting here at Phuket Islands, Thailand. You may heard about during the pandemic COVID-19 in Thailand. Phuket was one of the hit hard province. We had probably the second from Bangkok in terms of infected COVID patients. But luckily, we've been enjoying the zero infections for almost 30 days already as of today. So basically, things in Phuket get back in normal very well. And I'd like to brief a little bit on the tourism in Phuket and opportunity for the IMT-GT that we can collaborate all together. First of all, last year Phuket received 14 million tourists, which can derive from 10 million tourists from international arrival and 4 million tourists domestically. Among 10 million tourists international, we have 2.8 million from China. So China is comprised of about 28% in terms of international arrival, which you can see the very big market for Phuket. And I think that would apply for many cities in Southeast Asia, especially in IMT-GT area. So when China had problem in the end of January about the pandemics in Wuhan, that affects a lot about tourism industry, not only in Phuket, as I said, but the countrywide in Thailand, together with Malaysia, Indonesia, also get effect on the Chinese arrival, which less tourist arrival. Well, luckily, in China, the situation right now is getting better. Also in Thailand, and I also heard that Malaysians and Indonesians situations about COVID-19 it's assumes better now, and you guys have been eased on the lockdowns and restrictions and get back to the new normal. So with the international, I think the three countries together with Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia, we very much depend on international tourists in terms of tourism, because maybe Indonesians is with different scenario because you have very high population numbers that domestic consumption can be rely on very much. But comparing to Malaysia and Thailand, we have less domestic consumptions, especially in tourism. So unavoidably that international tourism will be the strong fit in for economic in Thailand and Malaysia. But with the restrictions from, even we are talking about travel bubble among cities, among countries that have been releasing and can be controlling very good about COVID-19, it's still far from reality that we can enjoy on the back old days. So basically, I like to propose a few things that I think we can collaborate together. The first one that I like to propose is if we can do what we call travel bubble among the IMT-GT by choosing the cities by cities. So instead of the whole countries, we can choose city by cities. For example, Phuket and Penang has very strong relationship, and we have been signing what we call sister city before. So maybe we can look at the potential have travel bubble between Phuket and Penang. Basically, before COVID-19 pandemic, we have flight direct by Air Asia, and I think also Firefly, which is subsidiary of Malaysia Airlines, flying direct from Phuket to Penang. We also had a flight from Phuket to Bali and from Phuket to Medan before by Air Asia. For those, actually, the network has been established already, and I think that will be easily picked up because, as I mentioned, international tourists will be among one of the strong input for the economy in these countries, especially IMT-GT. So the first one I'd like to propose travel bubble between city and cities by selecting cities that having the same solid background on tourism, and we can exchange the tourism in terms of travel bubble. The second one, I think very important that we just heard Uninet presenting. By collaborating about educations on tourism could be another wise way for starting the business. We have in Phuket universities that have international students, and those international students right now still not be able to coming back to Phuket for continue their education. So in fact, Phuket has been proposing what we call educational bubble by allowing the students who actually register in each country coming back to Thailand and quarantine for 14 days, since they would stay longer anyway. They would stay until they complete their degrees and educations, which would take another term or could be 3 months. So educational bubble could be one used to do during the uncertainties. Universities, this IMT area, focus on to operation together. And the last one, as I would propose to you guys, is about a government bubble. How can we encourage people to travel if we actually in the government sectors not traveling? So I would proposing that the event for ministerial level together down into permanent secretary level and to the government service servants level to do the meetings in e-cities. Instead of doing by Zoom, I would prefer with the next meeting, I should go to Malaysia. We should go to Malaysia and having the meetings in the new norms of the meeting. By doing so, we're establishing the confidence of each cities in an IMT-GT. For that, it would be a good taking point for us to do the business under the new norm. So my proposal by collaborations is doing travel bubble, starting from what we have in common. I'm proposing Phuket and Penang, Phuket, Medan, Phuket, Bali at the beginning. And the second thing, I'm proposing educational bubble by allowing the student in this IMT-GT area to start register and go for education. And if they would stay another term, for example, in 3 months, they would happy to quarantine for 14 days to make sure they're not affecting any COVID-19. And the last one is government bubble. Instead of doing by Zoom, may I propose to be the host for you guys coming to Phuket in a very soon day, let's say in next month. Then we can having the confidence laying down to our IMT-GT collaborations. That's proposal from Phuket, and anything, please contact me. Happy to share and meet you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kun Phumrat, Representative JBC, for sharing your view on tourism business perspective. Now we are at the most important session of this conference. Agenda item 6, potential IMT-GT tourism collaboration post-COVID-19. I would like to give the floor to the meeting to discuss on how to maximize the IMT-GT cooperation to reduce the impact of COVID-19 on tourism sector. Let us hear you beneficiary recommend for the possible program on activity for next year. We have only 20 minutes for this session. Now, the floor is yours. Please, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. Thailand, start from Thailand. Please, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thailand would like to propose some ideas to maximize IMT-GT cooperation and boost intra-sub-regional tourism with some proposal similar to the proposal from Uninet and JBC. First, in order to collaborate between IMT-GT, we could consider promoting self-driving along the IMT-GT economic corridors. This route can expand to other countries in ASEAN region, and we can promote different thematic routes, such as gastronomy tourism and tourism for all along these economic corridors. And second, in order to enhance IMT-GT as a safety and health destination, we should build confidence among tourists by developing a common IMT-GT hygiene and safety guidelines or standards for tourism destination and tourism businesses. These guidelines or standards do not only help build tourist confidence, but also enhance the service quality of tourism destination and businesses. Third, we should consider boosting tourism in the intra-sub-region by promoting traveling between cities that are safe from COVID-19, like the concept of travel bubble that the JBC mentioned. For tourism professionals and tourism operators in IMT-GT countries should be equipped with knowledge on how to implement new innovation and technologies in tourism sector to adapt themselves to post-COVID new normal lifestyle. And fifth, although COVID-19 has negatively affected tourism sector, it shows positive impact on the national ecosystem, as it provides time for many tourist destinations to recover. Therefore, we should use the current pause in tourism activity to strengthen IMT-GT initiative to make the sector more sustainable, inclusive, and resilient. So we need to focus more on quality, not quantity. Lastly, since IMT-GT member countries have effective medical treatment for COVID-19, it is an opportunity to promote the medical tourism in the sub-region. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you from Thailand. From Malay, from
Indonesia?
Indonesia, oh, sorry, Indonesia.
Yes.
Do you have any comment?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. I'm Dr. Sari Lenggogeni from Indonesia, represent University Andalas and Government of West Sumatra. And thank you very much for the chance to invite us to share the thoughts and comments. So, well, actually, I'm graduated from tourism school from University of Queensland, which we also have the collaboration with some college from Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, Australia, and other things. So we want to share about the strategy that we already work with government in West Sumatra, which is combining the surveillance and tracking and tourism together to create the mindfulness tourisms. So we actually, on behalf of Tourism Development Center, University of Andalas, we have conducted a research that we, together with Professor Noel Scott from Australia, that we come up that the current times market have now already encountering the negative emotions, which is boring and being stressful and anxiety. And we want to encounter this stressful market, which is focused on the local and regionals, and working with the laborers and by doing the PCR test to all of the visitors coming to our regions, and then we make sure that all guests coming to our regionals is negative in PCR. So we work between two sectors, health sectors and tourism, to ensure all the incoming visitors are free from the COVID-19. So that's our strategy, which is the governors already put this as our best strategy in West Sumatra province now. So we're working with the West Sumatra. So we focus firstly on the local and regionals, as well as the domestic market. And now also we have the niche market, which is more to server tourisms, and the PCR test is now combined with the package. So the postponed tourists coming to West Sumatra to do the observing activity in Mentawai Islands is now being combined with this strategy. So we combine not only thinking about the economic only, but we want to save the people, which is we ensure that all visitors is free from the COVID. So by using the labors, our labor test is now leading in nationals. We already tracking surveillance all of the hosts and visitors free from government. So government give us subsidized free to all visitors to have the PCR test. So make sure they are is free from COVID. And we also ensure all of the industry is what we call that is get the test for free for the PCR test, whether it's tour guide, whether it's to travel, and also the accommodation. So that's our strategy that our governors already share it nationally in the media. So I think what we can do now, probably we can also have further research more to the tourist demands as well as tourist strategy, and by combining the labors or surveillance what we call the surveillance systems, trackings, and the PCR, health sector is always the lead in terms to handle flattening the curve, but we don't want to lose the tourism economic impact due to COVID-19. So this is our strategy now, the chairman. So we really expect to have the further collaborations with universities of Andalas to have probably the research as well as the strategy with IMT-GT with the West Sumatra. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, representative from Indonesia.
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Hi.
Can I share views also from Indonesia?
Indonesia.
Yes. May I?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, let me introduce myself. I'm Vincent Jemadu from the Ministry of Tourism, Republic of Indonesia. Thank you very much, and I carefully listen to the opinions, the ideas of this meeting, and it's a very productive meeting. And I would like to share something for this IMT-GT. So, well, principally, I do agree with the ideas of, let's say, meetings in cities, okay, and the government officials. But remember, one thing's very important, that COVID-19 has changed the consumer behavior. Okay? COVID-19 has changed the product preferences, and I'm sure that in this recovery stage, Indonesia has put in place two strategies. The first one is gaining confidence, and the second one is appealing. So during the gaining confidence, we try to make sure that all the safety, cleanliness, and health protocols are well implemented in tourism objects and tourism public utilities. So what I try to share with is, well, before we try to encourage our people to have physical meetings in cities, it is advisable if we could invite the media, the KOL first, on the first stage. The media or the KOL in the first stage, encourage them to visit each other cities or countries, and we try to identify what cities, what places are really safe. So Indonesia is in very productive coordination with the national task force for COVID-19 to find out and to identify what place or what destinations are really safe for visitors. So I think it is much better if we can try to invite the media or influencers or KOLs from each countries, these three big countries, to visit the cities or the countries, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. Okay? Because one thing is very important to know, that tourism business is all about image. One, your image is poor, is weak, and nobody can visit the destination, nobody spends the money in the destination. So it's better for us to make exposure as much as possible, as widely as possible, by the media, by the KOL influencers, before we encourage the people to visit each other. So I think that's the idea that I can share with you. Hopefully we can implement this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Walu comment. Next, represent from Malaysia. Malaysia, please.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I would like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to our guest speaker just now from AirAsia, from the UITM Malaysia, and also from the Phuket Travel Association for the very good intervention, and some of the recommendation is very relevant in the context of joint collaboration within the IMT-GT. And then in this note, Malaysia also would like to echo what has been mentioned by Thailand just now, to explore the possibility of having the travel bubble among the IMT. I think it's very relevant to be explored, because within the three countries, there's many things that we can do rather than collaborating in the platform of ASEAN, which includes more countries, and might take time for us to implement. So I think within the IMT, between Malaysia and Thailand, we can do this in the very systematic and efficient manner. And then this can also be as a start, maybe can be considered as a pilot project before we embark opening our borders to other parts of the world to come to our region. And then another thing, I also agree that we need to develop and then promote and then communicate the health and safety protocols to the potential tourists and also to the industry players in our region. This is to make known of the SOPs that will be implemented in our region once their borders are open. And then I also agree with the ideas from my colleague from Indonesia just now mentioning about the promotion using the key opinion leaders, using the social media platform to stimulate and build confidence among tourists to visit our region. I think if Indonesia would like to lead, Indonesia will be more than happy to support Pak Jemadu. Yeah. I think this is one of the noble initiatives that can be explored during this situation. And then apart from that, I think another thing that we need also to address here is of capacity building of our industry players and also stakeholders towards the new norms. Yeah? We need to train the people on the ground on the new norm, new SOP protocols in order for us to be well prepared to receive the tourists and the new scenario arises from the COVID-19 pandemic. And then we also need to we can also work closely using the digital platform, either individually by the each of respective member states website or social media account in building the confidence and also to stimulate demand or interest for the tourists within our region, also outside our region, to visit the IMT-GT destination. And then this is very pertinent, and then now everybody is in the preparation process. I think everything is now been in nearly full strength in terms of preparation, and then just to wait for the situation gets better, and then when the international borders are open for international travel, everything is in place so that we will be able to revive back the glory of our tourism industry back to the stage as it was before in the past. So I think that's all the intervention from Malaysia for this. So because another thing, because some of the measures that can be undertaken is actually is beyond the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Tourism of the 3 member states. So we need one focal point or coordinator to develop a clear implementation framework to escalate this implementation that we mentioned by the 3 member states just now. And then we believe that IMT can play an active role in this together with the National Secretariat from the 3 member countries. And then perhaps we can also have a convergence meeting with the representative from other relevant IMT-GT working group to work with us in order to implement the joint collaboration effort between the 3 countries within the IMT-GT platform. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Malaysia. I think every comment, I believe that Jim can conclude our today's discussion. Next, Jim, you have any comment? Please.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity given to the CIMT. First of all, allow me on behalf of CIMT and team to congratulate and also thank you to all speakers. I took note already some of the important points, proposed by our previous speakers. So first of all, I wanted to share with you, just from the CIMT point of view, in fact, we have the platform for the tourism collaboration for the 5 years until from 2017 to 2021. For our information, So by 2021, so meaning that next year, only 1 year left. So our target international arrival coming to IMT-GT area is 52 million. So that is our platform, our target. So what is the where are we standing right now? So if check with the data, we have in 2018, so the tourism arrivals, international arrival coming to IMT-GT area is around 43 million, 43.3 million, more or less. So we still have a couple of more millions, to reach until 52, reach our target. However, this year 2020 become worse for us, due to the COVID-19. As our speakers mentioned just now, nobody knows that what has been happening today. So first of all, I would like to welcome the idea from the previous speakers, and also from Thailand, from Indonesia. We have to strengthen more our collaborations. The thing is how we turn the crisis into opportunities, as mentioned also by our colleague. So CIMT is more than happy to collaborate to further coordinate with colleagues from the 3 countries. If you have the concrete proposal, so send to us, to the CIMT. We will discuss in detail later on after this conference. So thank you so much. Under agenda item, we have identified already quote unquote collaboration. I noticed as well, what the government, local government of West Sumatra done. So my colleague Sari Lenggogeni from University of Dallas also mentioned just now. So you may also share with us later on, how we can collaborate further, because your experience can be as well useful for the another region. So CIMT is more than happy to receive more information or concrete proposal from our member state. This number one. And number two, we also would like to inform you, in fact, for the airline industry, actually, for the Air Asia. So in 2018, so the 3 ministers from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand already signed the extension protocol agreements, MOU, to have more connection between Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. So we have already the protocol, we have the MOU. Now what we are going to seek is, after the COVID-19, if we can have more cities being connected, whether it is in Sumatra, with southern part of Thailand, or with some part in Malaysia. So that is also we are looking for that one. CIMT also is very open to collaborate with the private sectors, and also with our colleague from the Thailand, from the Travel Association. So it is a very good input for us. We take note this one, and if possible, we can also collaborate on the importance of the universities' role to develop human resources for the business sectors. Chair, thank you so much. This comment from CIMT. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Danlop. You have any?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apart from the National Secretariat of the BT of Thailand, I'd like to add something. From the proposal from Phuket, I believe on the traveling bubble, not only between Phuket to Penang, Phuket to Medan, and Phuket to the other cities in the GT. I believe between Thailand and Malaysia, we have so many towns, border towns, linking between Thailand and Malaysia that are safe enough in order to peak as the traveling bubble. And for the sake of the confidence, I believe the overall picture of ASEAN if we look into the north of ASEAN, upper ASEAN, the CLMVT country, so safe from pandemic. The case in this area are very small. So in order to build confidence, we may think beyond IMT-GT. If we like to attract the travelers from beyond IMT-GT to visit IMT-GT, we may think to extend our destination to build the route to connect with CLMV. We heard that in Myanmar, in Laos, PDR, in Cambodia, in Vietnam, very small case there. If they stick with the same standard under ASEAN, that means report the real thing like that. We can extend cooperation with the upper ASEAN countries too. So in order to urge more travelers from outside, outside ASEAN to visit the whole region as the very safe place, something like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kun Jirapat, Division General Secretary, Thailand. Next, Indo, do you have any comment? Indonesia. Mr. Jubilar, please.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jubilar. I'm representing Pak Chandra Negara, my director, and on behalf and with the permission of my head of delegates, I would like to contribute some things with regard to our discussion for this morning. And as I can summary from all the input from the participants, so at least we can sum up that there are three aspects that we need to consider when we would like to reopen our borders for intra-IMT-GT tourism or intra-ASEAN tourism, as well as for international tourism. The first one is about the connectivity. So this is where we talk about the precondition that will allow tourism sector to confidently open the borders and also move the restrictions. But of course, we need to bear in mind the contributing factors that the health concerns and also the movement restriction and different requirements issued by different authorities and local governments. And that also makes travel becoming more expensive. And we must admit that now the purchasing power of people to travel is now reduced. But then we need also to propose some measures. Actually, these measures are coming from AirAsia, our colleague from AirAsia, because last week we have the webinar with regard to the travel agent and tour operators, and we invite also AirAsia to come to our webinar. And the proposed measures coming from AirAsia is about the IMT-GT or the region to have the clear health protocol and also to have the one-time verification for documents required, one-time registration, reasonable price of COVID-19 test, and also the utilization of technology. So let me share the Indonesia's experience with regard to these kind of measures. That now in Indonesia we have the health alert card, and it is used by the foreign visitor arrivals coming to Indonesia. They need to fill up the form, and even this form can be accessed electronically. So it is indeed will be very beneficial for IMT-GT if we can have such measures to be uniform, or we can benchmark to what Indonesia and also Malaysia and Thailand has with our health protocol. So it will ease the foreign visitor arrivals when they come to IMT-GT region. So there is one clear, one health protocol and one clear how to report the health alert card. And then we also need to bear in mind that with regard to the international travel, we also need to minimize the quarantine and avoid it if possible. So if you may probably aware that for now, Indonesia applies 14 days quarantine if the visitor arrives for suspected as a COVID-19 sufferers. And then also we need to have the regular consultations as well to have data sharing, including utilization of technology or in this case, the contact tracing of the visitor when they come to IMT-GT regions. So these are the preconditions when we would like to initiate travel bubble intra-IMT-GT region, or in the future when we would like to reopen our borders. And please also be remembered that if Thailand proposed that it is important to have the self-driving between the IMT-GT countries, but since Indonesia do not share borders, land borders with the IMT-GT countries, so please allow us to also propose that we need to not only focus on land and air connectivity, but as well as sea connectivity. We need also to remember that the sea connectivity, or in this case, the cruise tourism, is also as important for IMT-GT region as also we have Sabang and perhaps Phuket and Langkawi to join the trilateral destinations for cruise. So in that case, it is also important for us to formulate the safety protocols for cruise tourism, so we can start to reopen our borders for cruise and our ports for cruise coming to IMT-GT regions. And then secondly, with regard to tourism professionals, we believe that it is also important for us to train our tourism workers so they can cope with the new normal situation, and if there is any additional competency standards with regard to the clean, healthy, safety, sanitation, hygiene standards. So I think this is also important, so we can make sure that our hoteliers or those who work for the travel and tourism industry be aware and they are more ready to welcome tourists when the tourists come to their properties. So the additional training or the upgraded skills for the tourism workers to be in pace with the clean, healthy, standard safety protocols is very important. Last but not least, I would like to also echo Pak Vincent proposal with regard to promotion. It is important for us, of course, to gain confidence and to start with the key opinion leaders, so they can spread the positive vibes and also the positive notes coming from the IMT-GT destinations to outside world. So that concludes my interventions for now, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jubila from Indonesia. For the last comment, Asia has any additional comment? Asia, please.
Sorry, is it me? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're fully supportive with, definitely, I think the harmonization of health protocol standards is really something that we need to ease and look to. I think some encouraging signs, especially from the Malaysian government as they're opening up with Singapore and Brunei, is that they also want to reduce even some of the requirements, for example, testing and quarantine for selected nationalities. So that would also help in bringing back the confidence. Second is, I definitely think, we're trying as much as possible in terms of using promotions to stimulate demand. But it is really, we're kind of handcuffed by some of the borders which are still not open yet, but looking forward to maybe experimenting with the education travel bubble, medical health tourism bubble, and I cannot announce a few things, but I think in the next 2 months or so, we're catering, we're even changing some of our aircraft to modify the seats to make sure that this is an exciting experience for a lot of our guests.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much every comment. Now, we formally come to the last agenda of conference. Agenda item 7, with this closing remark. Before closing IMT-GT video conference, I would like to invite Mr. Fidel Dalan or Ms. Butri to summarize this video conference result. And now the next IMT-GT video conference scheduled under trade and development sector. Please, Mr. Fidel Dalan.
Right, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I will try to wrap up what we have discussed already during this virtual meeting. But of course, it won't be complete, because so many points that I have to take note. But anyway, we will summarize later on in our minute of the report, and we will share with our colleague. But for points, I can summarize a bit, the highlight from our speakers just now. As we understand, in coping with the COVID-19, so of the 3 countries, IMT-GT has different policy, how to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 and to reduce its impact to not only to the people, to the health of the people, and also to the economy. Some incentives have been launched by the 3 countries in different ways, but basically there are one point that we note here. So the important for the 3 countries to recover economy back through the incentive package. The different with the crisis in 1996, as mentioned by the previous speaker, we need to stimulate to encourage more the small and medium enterprises, because the SMEs are also one of the victim, in this COVID-19. So the second one, the need for us, for the 3 countries, IMT-GT, to strengthen collaboration, especially for sharing experience, best practice. So as also mentioned by our leaders during the ASEAN summit, for the COVID-19, we have to strengthen our collaboration, sharing experience and practice on how each country are coping with this pandemic. The second one, another point, we have to strengthen partnership between private sectors and government or policymakers. So under this difficult time, there is no way for us, we have to collaborate. Together we are stronger. That is the motto that we have to implement. So partnership between government and private sector is indeed required for this situation. Another one, they need to change the travel behavior to include public safety and hygienists. This is also another point that you have to consider in the future. If we want to promote tourism, please include as well the protocol for public safety and hygienists. Like what mentioned by our colleague from the Air Asia just now. So the Air Asia actually has tried to implement the air travel protocol. So we welcome that one. This is also already started by our colleague from the Air Asia, because for the IMT-GT region, that is for Air Asia, we are maybe 90%, we are using Air Asia to travel to visit our members, because not all of the national carrier fly to the city or to the region where we have to fly. So Air Asia so far is very useful for us. and we are the big members of the loyalty Air Asia. So we will cooperate in the future more. So another point I took note from our discussion is the need to open market slowly for foreign tourists, of course, to follow SOP, the protocol. That is the point also I noted during the discussion. And then another point just now is this is also very good, but subject to our discussion also with the relevant ministries, the need for the IMT-GT to have the protocol, the head protocol. So I think that this is also very interesting to discuss. Whenever we have the clear, IMT-GT health protocol, it is also good for the travelers, to follow. What we have to anticipate, if we have no clear protocol in IMT-GT region, it is also believed it will be difficult for travelers, when they are entering each of this country. So I think that this is some point that we have to some point that we summarize from our discussion, but it is not yet complete. We will put it in our summary of record later on, and we will share with you. And for your information, distinguished participants, so today our virtual meeting followed by almost 100 participants, 97 precisely. So there is also good numbers from universities, from government officials, and also from the private sectors. So in this regard, we are also very happy. Our colleagues, from universities, GBC, also with us, and actually we are now the complete what we call the entities, elements in our discussion. So we think that your contribution in this regard is very important for further collaboration in IMT-GT tourism sectors. So, Chair, I think that there is a very few conclusion or point that I can convey at the moment. We will share with you later on after the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Fidel Danlang. The conclusion of this meeting will be beneficial for recovering tourism industry in the sub-region. And I strongly hope that the next meeting will enhance our sector by having more trade and invest in tourism sector in IMT-GT. Since this meeting come to meet its end, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to all of you for your active participation and contribution in making this morning meeting via video conference happy successfully. This meeting really showcased the strong cooperation and common interest in fighting against the crisis that impact our tourism sector. While waiting for vaccine, we need to employ more cooperation in every sector. Both private and public sector have to work together, share best practice together, and encourage all kinds of tourism together to build confidence among tourism to travel in our sub-region again. I do believe that with our effort and closely collaboration, we can finally recover tourism in IMT-GT post-COVID-19 and bring back happiness and million-fold smile to our sub-region. Last but not least, as the chairman of Working Group on Tourism, I would like to thank CIMT for organizing this special conference. I also would like to thank IMT-GT member representative from Joint Business Council, Unit and Asia for your valuable contribution, which are in this very useful for relief tourism sector from outbreak of COVID in sub-region. I would like to wish you safe and healthy and declare the IMT-GT video conference meeting the impact of COVID-19 on IMT-GT tourism cooperation closed. Thank you and ขอบคุณครับสวัสดีครับ
Thank you. I will take your time 1 minute, Mr. Aran Muchai. So on behalf of
please.
Yeah, on behalf of the CIMT, I would like to thank you for your role in this virtual meeting. And I think that our meeting today is very productive one, and so many substantive issues that we can share with the others. So again, thank you so much for your chairmanship during this video conference, Mr. Aranchai. Thank you. Kapuga.
Thank you so much again.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much, Chairman, Mr. Firdaus Dahlan. Nice to see you here.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Thank you.
Terima kasih semua. Thank you all.
Yang bertumbuhan atau bernama berada di kalau
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Terima kasih Pak Firdaus.
Terima kasih Pak. Thank you so much.
Terima kasih semuanya. Terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Khairul. Thank you so much.
Terima kasih Pak Firdaus. Dari Babel, terima kasih Pak Firdaus.
Terima kasih.
Termasuk juga pengembangan formalitas.
Alright.
Terima kasih. Bye.
Terima kasih. Thank you so much.
Ya, tahu ya. Kena ambil nombor yang mana? Ada. Oh, dia kan.